Hi everyone, I am host Hash65 and this is the Marble Studios. Today we're doing the recap of the Grand Theft tournament that we just did. So if you missed that, there will be somewhere the card up there, or there will be a playlist at the end that you can watch. Because we're discussing, just a lot really happened at Grand Theft Marbles, and we're going to be discussing that today. Well, we're talking about it. But first, before we get into that, I really want to get into the timeline of what will happen in the future. So, the track was taken down. There's a new one being built right now. So, it'll take a little bit to build. After that, we're going to do a Marble Duel. And then I don't know what else is coming. If you have any ideas, comment them down below. I'll make sure to take a look at them. But other than that, there'll be a couple other ideas. And then that'll take us to the summer. And then we'll start prepping the track for the Grand Summer Tournament 2025. It won't take as long as Grand Summer Tournament 2024, I promise. That one took way too long to do. But as my school starts to wrap up, it should become a lot easier for me to edit content and get it out to you. Also, there'll be this. Not only that, there will also be supercuts of not only the Grand Summer Tournament, but also this one, the Grand Mountain Climb and the Grand Summer Tournament, for you guys to watch and enjoy for the binge watchers. I've been working on the Grand Mountain Climb supercut, and it is like an hour and 45 minutes, the longest video I've ever put out on this channel. So I guess that's enough blabbing about what's coming in the future. Let's actually start getting into discussing the Marble Tournament. The rounds got more intense as the race went on. Like the very first round, nothing interesting happened. The race kind of went how you'd expect. You know, Blue Boxer's the best, and he ended up moving on. But in my opinion, Deep Blue didn't do all that great this race. So obviously, I have some clips to prove this, or show this, but every marble had their shot of glory. Like we can see in this first clip here, Snow White, beat out Blue Boxer, and even Fire would give Blue Boxer some trouble. But in the first race, for example, Blue Boxer was in fourth, and now the one who lost there was Sahara, which I'm very disappointed by Sahara's performance in this tournament. I figured he would at least go on to the semis, but he didn't. He was actually the first one out in the very first race, which in my opinion I'm disappointed with. But Deep Blue wasn't actually all that far off. As we can see in this clip, he's struggling to defeat Sahara Sandstorm. And Sandstorm passes him. This is towards the end of the race, by the way, where Sahara Sandstorm passes him. However, he is successful in passing Sahara Sandstorm back, which causes Sahara Sandstorm's elimination. Other than that, not really a whole lot happens. But we have a couple of things I'd like to reference, with this clip being my guide. So we can give credit where credit is due. Deep Blue does successfully be in the front of the pack, only losing to Snow White. And even then, he's still doing decently well. I don't remember off the top of my head because it's been a while if he loses to Deep Blue in this clip, but I don't think he does. You will know because you see the clip right now. But unfortunate, and the other thing is with Fire, he actually gets eliminated here. He did kind of decently well in the first race. Like I said, he gave Blue Boxer trouble, but he just ends up being in last, and he's like, he put all his fire spirit into the first race, and then he ended up losing it all in the second. And I don't really understand that. After round one, like I said, it wasn't really all that interesting. However, as we get into round two, I have to talk about my shirt and how it's different. This video was recorded over several days, so obviously my attire won't be the same. But let's just move on to round two. Round two had the introduction of Captain Penguin and the rookie, the Aquateer, who surprisingly performed well, moving up to the finals and I believe getting third. However, we will discuss this when we get to the finals. So let's talk about his performance here in this tournament, in this round. Of that skill that he gets, he is granted the rank of a major power. The people kind of in charge of this and the other great powers see him as a rising star for sure, but they all think it's too early to call him a great power simply because he's only 2 races. Although he won the other one. This race, the Great Mountain Climb, they only got third, and they're thinking maybe with other races and stiffer competition, he may falter. And that's what they're a little concerned about with the early great power ranking. But even then, with another Marvel who's a great power, we're going to talk about later, that judgment's questionable. But even then, I do feel like he's extremely skilled, and in my opinion, deserves a great power rank. But I understand the officials holding this off and waiting on it. And the demonstration of this skill is shown in this clip, where he gets in the final last. But you could arguably say this is just strategic advantage, as it's used to attack Captain Penguin. And Captain Penguin is arguably one of the strongest great powers in the entire Marvel community that I have racing here. But he ends up winning out in the end. And you can see that he ends up going through the hole before Captain Penguin, pushing Captain Penguin into, I believe, 4th place. Now, although the Aquateer only gets in 3rd, the other two ahead of him are the Jungle, who's arguably worse, and Stripe Man, who's probably worse. And we can even see here, he pushes Stripe Man out of the way for Stripe Man to retaliate and push Jungle back into him, who he also faces it off and is able to be in 1st. And he stays in 1st a good while before people almost kept up with him. And so you're probably thinking, right, that I talk really good about a rookie competitor, and that's because he did really well. The praise I'm really giving him is deserved, in my opinion. He did really well, not only this round, but in this race, but in this tournament, in my opinion. He did like super duper well. Like I said, I think he got like 3rd overall. And this is documented by these clips I'm about to show you. Like the start of this one here, where he beats Jade twice. And later in the same race, this is all in the same round, by the way, he beats up Captain Penguin in the twin. And then he also beats up Stripe Man, who I'm very disappointed by his performance, as he ends up getting 5th in this round. He ends up getting eliminated 1st, followed by Jade, which I'm also disappointed. I had high hopes for Jade after her performance in the Grand Summer Tournament. She made a comeback and actually I think either made it to the semis or made it to the finals. I'm pretty sure she made it to the finals. I'm very disappointed in her performance here. Getting out 4th was sucks. But who I'm surprised by is Wizard. I'm very surprised by Wizard because he got eliminated 3rd. He didn't move on, but I kind of expected him to get out earlier than he did. So I'm kind of proud of Wizard here. And to back up my claims of talking about, Wizard, Jade, and Stripe Man, I have a couple clips to show you.
As in this first clip, this is kind of the reason why I said I'm disappointed in Stripe Man's performance. We can see the Aquateer pushes right through Stripe Man, and then Stripe Man gets bullied by an off-hit Wizard hit. We can see again why Captain Penguin is regarded as one of the strongest great powers, as Captain Penguin just hits Wizard, although Wizard had a far greater advantage in, that final positioning, but Captain Penguin just said, I don't care, and hit it anyway. This is a battle the Jungle takes place in, one of the better battles the Jungle takes place in, and he holds his ground versus the Aquateer, although eventually loses. This is one of the best battles he has throughout this race and throughout this round, as he's able to hold his ground and actually beats Captain Penguin out in the fighting. But this doesn't really persist. For Jungle fans, I hope it would, but unfortunately, this is the recap, so we all know what happens. And the next red funnel, we can see Jungle gets pursued and attacked by Captain Penguin. And just Captain Penguin just is relentless here, and he ends up making a hit right around here, where he just ends up beating out Cap Jungle, and he goes into the green funnel first. And now in the green funnel and the yellow funnel, Jungle continues to make attacks on our stalwart defender, Captain Penguin, none of which work. That's why I call him a stalwart defender. He's just really good at defending against hits. So there are the occasional hits that get him off guard, but most hits do just fine. He defends most hits just fine, which is why I think he's really good. This last clip shows Wizard's skill. As when Aquateer hits him hard, the Wizard just kind of shrugs it off, as we can see in a second, and goes to the hole first.
Now, the last race of round 2, I think, deserves its own little thing for me here. Because it shows Wizard's perseverance, and why I think, although he didn't place very well, he did kind of well in his round, as he gets eliminated last. And these clips will show, but first I'm going to talk for a sec, he's really perseverant. Like, he really fights against the Aquateer and Captain Penguin. He goes, like, to move on here. Now, he could just get last and just kind of sorrow, and seeing it, he's like, because at this point he kind of gauges their skill. He knows Captain Penguin's way better than him, and he, the rookie, he thinks, okay, the Aquateer's probably better than me. But instead of saying, I'm just going to go out, he fights till the very end, which I think is very admirable. So although he didn't do well, and the clips I'm going to show you right here shows that he's a fighter till the very end. As we discussed in this first clip,
where we see the last race where Wizard gets unfortunately eliminated. Going in the blue funnel second, he is unfortunately bodied by both Captain Penguin and the Aquateer without able to make attempts on them. Going in last place, moving to the yellow funnel. But we see his determination on force in this yellow funnel. All the disadvantaged take swings of the marbles and actually makes a connection on the Aquateer thanks to Captain Penguin's support. And as in the red funnel, he makes swings like Captain Penguin. However, they unfortunately don't work. As Aquateer fails to make swings on Wizard there. But he maintains his second place until here, where in the yellow funnel on the second half of the race, where the Aquateer makes a good hit on him, and although he's fierce right behind the Aquateer, this is the split section before the end of the race. And Wizard's able to go through this section extremely fast, and the Aquateer is a little slow. But and the Aquateer is able to make the connections in this twin. However, it starts getting kind of bad for Wizard when we enter the blue funnel. As you remember, and as we're about to see, this is where the Aquateer makes a hit on him. And this hit is what really kind of drowns Wizards out, as we see right there. This hit causes the fall of Wizard, as he loses this battle and never recovers, causing his elimination.
Round 2 did certainly turn up the heat, but like the first round, the expected happened. The great power being Captain Penguin, and surprisingly to some, the rookie marble being the Aquateer passed on. But it does show, some humiliating things happening, like Strikeman and Jogus losing this to the perseverance we saw by Wizard. But round 3 heats things up. And I'm not just saying that because I want, to build you guys up hype. Round 3 is the round with slime. And it's the first round that this recap is mentioned by name. Kinda. Like I mentioned that one's gonna happen. Like I said, round 3 is slime. And if you remember watching from the video, slime got eliminated second. Yeah, a great power such as slime. And remember, slime is a big racing history. But unfortunately, he's gotten sort of a decline lately. He had a duel with Rainbow not so long ago where, unfortunately, Rainbow beat him. And this tournament is just an exemplar of the decline that Slime's been on lately. Excuse me. But Slime has a long and rich racing history, not only here, but he raced on other channels. Before this, and even during this a little bit, he raced on the channel of Premier Marble Racing, a great racing channel that is one of my inspirations for making this channel for myself. He even raced in the 2019 M&H and Toy Racing Summer Games to decent success, I believe getting 5th or 4th place. A prestigious marble, a marble that has high great power status. But as of recently, he's gone through some sort of decline. I don't know what's been going on with him, but he hasn't been performing as well as he used to. And I don't know if this is just kind of a bottom pit or a road spike, or a bottom pit like that he will recover from, or a more permanent dent road spike in his path that will take a lot longer to clear. But the officials have sided with him, stating that he is still a great power for the time being. However, if he doesn't get his act together and do well in some races, he will demote to a major power, which will be very humiliating for him, as it's the very first ever demotion we will have seen. And the clips do show this, as let's take a look at these clips here.
We start in the first funnel, where we see Slime getting attacked by a lot of marbles, most notably by Icy Blast, who moves on, and then later by Rainbow, but he does get through second, doing decently well to start the race off. You're probably thinking, okay, he's not going to lose at the beginning of this race. He gets attacked, it looks to be right by Rainbow, which, yes, he does right there. He kind of gets knocked, but it doesn't actually change his placement. He still places second. Later in the same race, we could see Princess Speedy pursuing him, but then Sunshine comes in, and he has to fight the two of them, I think working together here. But they're fighting each other, and then they kind of bring him into their fight, which leads to, I think, a little bit more behind as he now falls back from second to third. But he's able to move on just fine. Later in the twin, actually in the red funnel after the twin, in the second half of the race, we see Slime fighting Rainbow, which doesn't go well for Slime. I'm sorry. This is the first half. Sorry. We're about to enter the second half. Now, in the beginning of the second half, right after the elevator, we can see Slime entering fourth. Yeah, they ended up beating him out. A lot of marbles did. But he still is able to make a hit here and get through. That's why this is scenes like this where they decide to not detract his score. As he's able to maintain. And this scene right here where he just beats Princess Speedy out, a marble who's well respected. And that's why they ended up not reducing his score to a major power. And thing like that, where he just beats Icy Blast out of the way, works really well here. As we continue moving, we see the Bloom Funnel again. He's able to defend against Icy Blast again, and even in the final funnel, the first track. Well, he loses, but luckily Sunshine was behind him. We can see it seems like those last two funnels, and this one as well, why they didn't attract him to a major power. As we can see that Slime is just kind of he does decently well for the most part, but however, this is the race where he gets eliminated, so we can watch him slowly lose more ground as time goes on. Like right now, he's in first place. We can see his first deduction of ground a little bit, where he had a decent lead, and he loses a little bit of it to combine Icy Blast and Princess Speedy, and he even gets down to second. As we can see, he continues losing ground and getting hit by Princess Speedy, which should reduce him to third. And Rainbow comes in, hitting him. Moving on to fourth, this funnel. But like I said, it's moments like that think, oh my goodness, he's kind of weak. But it's moments like we just saw earlier that make him think he's really strong. Like I think this moment here. He's in fourth when the second half starts. But he's able to recoup some of his ground by hitting Icy Blast and getting into third place. And then in the twin here, we can see him attack Rainbow to no avail. Rainbow is pretty weak, so he probably should have succeeded there. But he does succeed against Rainbow here. And this should put him at a higher elevation. And this is towards the end of the race. So a lot of people probably thought that he was going to survive just because he was in a higher placement towards the end of the race. Alas, unfortunately, he did not survive. And there were several marbles behind him. We can see Princess Speedy and Rainbow at the top and just some Slime at the bottom. However, I believe that Princess Speedy beats him out. He remains in second place location, and he continues to do well. But we can see the marbles close on him and get closer to him. And this is where his kind of decline to last really begins. He's been holding off so far, and this is what kind of makes people mad. Like, he loses his rake so fast. He goes down to second to fourth so quick, because this is the last two funnels right here. Like I said, first Rainbow hits him in that red fighter funnel, getting to third. Then he fights back, but he fails to fight back. Then he never makes another hit on Rainbow. But then here comes Icy Blast, right? And Icy Blast takes advantage of his position, as we can see here, and is able to, like, he's really struggling to go in the hole, but luckily he's able to go through. And in the final funnel, we see Icy Blast attack Slime, which leads to Slime's elimination. And that's the last of my clips for Slime. But as we can see, his decline from first to fourth was really quick.
We talked about Slime a lot, but how did the other marbles do? Out of the other 4 competitors, did they all do how well it was planned? Well, kinda. Sunshine was the first out, but she's not really all that good, so that's kind of expected. And we already saw a lot of clips with her while talking in the slime segment, so I don't think we really need to go over her all that much. But there are a few, and same thing applies with Princess Speedy. Being probably the best out of the bunch, with this performance, definitely the best out of the bunch. Before, it was arguably with Slime, but now she's absolutely the best of the bunch. But there is two marbles who had a decent performance this time around. The marbles are Rainbow and Icy Blast. With Rainbow, I believe, getting third and just barely not making it, while Icy Blast makes it to the second round. Unfortunately, she doesn't make it to the finals, and again, we will talk about that when we get there. But we're going to talk about Icy Blast's performance, and we'll talk about Rainbow's performance. We will probably talk about the performances in every race they've been, including other clips from the other races that you haven't seen yet. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? You're being confusing. We're going to go back through all the races these marbles are in, including clips we've already seen, but they focus on different aspects. But now we're actually going to talk about the final race too, because Slime's not in that one, so we didn't talk about it with him. But all these marbles are there, so we're going to talk about it with them. So let's get the clips.
The biggest thing I have to talk about through these clips is how Rainbow has iffy performances. And it starts out in this very first, probably the longest clip here, where we can see how Princess Speedy starts out doing extremely well and then just shrugs off in a hit from Rainbow, but Rainbow gets bullied by both Princess Speedy and Icy Blast. And then again just shrugs off another hit. This gives Princess Speedy a great access, but also Princess Speedy it looks like she's about to go through the hole, though Icy Blast just pushes her out of the way. And we can see how it doesn't go well for Icy Rainbow, but it goes really well to Icy Blast. And again, in the second clip also shows the fact that how Rainbow is insignificant, because Rainbow does good in this clip as she fights Princess Speedy later in the same race, and then Princess Speedy breaks off the fight at a bad time for herself, as Rainbow is now closer to the funnel. And Rainbow is able to get through in a quicker time. But with nothing involved to Rainbow, we can see Princess Speedy beating up Icy Blast. And then we can see Rainbow beating up Icy Blast. And then we can see Princess Speedy getting hit by Icy Blast. And then Rainbow just kind of sneaks in there, so then there's no lead. They all enter pretty close. And the end of the clip that we just saw for Slime, we can see how Rainbow just kind of ends Slime's career in this tournament. And yeah, brutal. But then we see Rainbow back at it again, gets beat up by Princess Speedy. But yeah, and Icy Blast too. And Icy Blast just sneaks in there. Like I said, an iffy performance from Rainbow.
If you consider last round an upset, okay, hold on. Round 3 was a good bit of an upset, with only the best marble, Princess Speedy, the group making on, not the other great power in the group of Slime. But we already digested that. But, so we have to move on to the final round of the quarterfinals, which, if you thought last round was an upset, this round was an upset. So, the marbles that participated were Black Hole, Galaxy, Jungle. I do that all the time. You'll realize that I do that all the time. But this is Jungle right here. I think we already talked about Jade. We have Golden Viper and Space Black. These 5 are the competitors who raced. And, okay, real talk. I have all these 5. You're not winning it, so get out of here. So out of all of these 4, you'd think it would be these 2 that would move on, right? We'd have Jungle and we would have Golden Viper. We would. It would be these 2, right? But no, it's not. It's these 2. These 2 are the ones to move on. Like, what is this? And not even that. This guy wins the whole thing. Black Hole wins the whole thing. So, that's just impressive that they ended up winning. And they didn't even do that. They beat Golden Viper, one of the pristine great powers, and you guys are still here. There we go. I can finally set my thing down on the table. But let's break it down. How did they beat Golden Viper and Jungle? Jungle had actually a really good performance. He came back to the Grand Summer Tournament last year. It was in the semifinals or the quarterfinals. He came back and ended up moving on. I forget which one, but he came back somewhere, so he expected him to do decently well, and you always expect Golden Viper to do well, right? So obviously, no harm, no foul there. So what happened? Well, the bittersweet rivalry caused them to fight, and what ended up happening was Galaxy took more of a blue boxer strategy, where he would be more towards the back, would never get eliminated. But Black Hole, on the other hand, would take the strategy of front running. He would just try to be in the front all the time. And it ended up breaking out for him. And we're going to show, these next clips will show at least we'll start off, we'll go race by race this time. So just in the first race, let's take a look at the clips that show this dominance the most.
As always, when we enter the very first funnel, we can see that it is very close. And even though Golden Viper looks to have it, is actually the Black Hole that will sneak through there, followed by Galaxy. A trend that we see awful lot throughout this. And we see in the immediate next funnel, the same thing happens. When Gold Viper tries to make hits, he often fails. And when he does finally make a hit on Black Hole, it actually ends up not working. And then Galaxy is able to make a surprise hit when Golden Viper is distracted. Next clip, we go to Jade and Black Hole. Black Hole is able to beat Jade, however, Jade comes back in a later funnel in the same race and wins after them cycling for a very long time. We can see this is what they're very disappointed in Jade's performance, because she does very well here, even beating out Golden Viper from time to time. And Golden Viper is able to beat Space Black, which is the expected performance. While in contention to not lose, Space Black makes another hit on Jade, which ends up not working, putting Jade into, I believe, third place, because he gets in before Golden Viper, I'm pretty sure. But so does Space Black, but Golden Viper shows why he is a strong, great power and just beats Space Black with no rhyme or reason. He does the same thing with Galaxy, just doing a wham hit. However, this tournament isn't actually Golden Viper's best, as he gets repeatedly beaten by Jade several times. Jade is strong, but not that strong. But we see Golden Viper still is able to beat Galaxy from time to time, and there's Space Black. He's to this point lost his contention. Jade's currently in second place. This is immediately after the elevator. And we can see Galaxy just makes a surprise hit and is able to beat him out. But Golden Viper just sneaks in there. This puts Jade in last place. However, right before the twin, we can see that Jade's able to beat Golden Viper out. This is a repeated theme. But we just saw Galaxy make a real quick hit there that didn't work. And we actually see the same thing here. Golden Viper makes a hit that just didn't work. We don't. And you see here with Space Black. He made a hit that didn't work. When Galaxy and Golden Viper fight, Galaxy beats him out at first, but then Golden Viper strikes back, again, loses. When Space Black has to have its fight to the death, as expected, Golden Viper takes the win, which was expected.
The unfortunate thing is, the race's conclusion was actually expected. Space Black hasn't been doing so well in generally any of my races since the very beginning. He lost his very first duel, the very first duel, to Snow White, and has not been done well in any of my tournaments. So unfortunately, his performance here is very, very expected for us to get last place. However, Jade did actually decently well in this first race, at least, beating out Golden Viper several times, and Black Hole showed off the strategy that he would use for the rest of the tournament. That is just edge running. He would often just edge run, full edge run. You know what I mean when I say edge run, right? He would try to be at the front, at the edge or the front of the pack. He would front run. That's the proper term for it. He's front run the pack. However, I am very disappointed by Golden Viper's performance. Golden Viper is a top great power, arguably the strongest, and he did not perform well in this tournament at all. He actually gets eliminated in the next group of people, clips that we see, the second race of this bracket group, which is unfortunate because what we see is that he starts out decently well, getting out first place, defeating everyone. But as time goes on, he falls further and further behind, losing critical battles to Jade and just not being able to catch back up and not being able to compete anymore, which is a huge problem because this is what we don't expect of him, and it's what we expected to do very well, and that's not what happens, which is a problem. And actually, to show you what I'm talking about, these next clips.
This first clip shows what I was talking about, as Golden Viper is able to maintain an early lead while dodging the fight between Black Hole and Jade, but using it to his advantage to hit Black Hole in a way that puts him in first place. He's able to use Black Hole again to get into that funnel hole kind of quickly. But between the fight between Jade and Black Hole, Jade is victorious. But we see another victorious fight for Jade when Jade attacks Golden Viper. This is a fight that Jade is able to win. Later in the same funnel, we see a fight between Black Hole and Galaxy, which, we can see that Galaxy is able to beat out Black Hole in this encounter, which is really nice for Galaxy. We can see in that twin for revenge for all the attacks that Jade did, Black Hole strikes Jade again. This time it's Black Hole victorious for Black Hole, but Galaxy's able to make a surprise hit on Jade that actually renders useless for Galaxy. After the elevator, as we can see in this clip, we can see that another fight between Black Hole and Jade breaks out, and they're able to use the fight to get ahead of Golden Viper, who's starting to fall behind. As you see right there, he just lost the fight to Jade. However, Golden Viper doesn't give up and strikes back in this clip of the final twin where he's able to get ahead. But this is what I was talking about when talking to you guys earlier, as he's now in last place. Not to mention that Jade's able to get out in front. But no matter what Golden Viper does, he just can't get in the lead, and we just see another fight between Galaxy and Black Hole.
The action we've seen in a few races, the next few are rather, this race at least, is rather boring. The trend we see is that Jade falls behind very early on, and this is the main reason why I'm disappointed. He is never able to fully mount a counterattack. Yes, he is able to beat Black Hole and get second place for a while, but then it quickly gets lost. The main point of tension is between the two rivals, Galaxy and Black Hole, for first place. And actually, the lack of clips that I have for this proves this. As there's these next few races, you probably have guessed, the amount of clips I've gotten has expanded. This continues the trend. But this race, the next brackets, continue the trend. This race is not. I have very few clips. They're very spread out. Which is, I want as many clips as I can to show you guys, but when the race is boring, that becomes harder and harder. And I'm not saying this race does not have any action. That's not what I'm saying. It has lots of action, just not, any action I can clip, maybe missing out on some of your favorite moments from this race or any others. Which, comment down below your favorite moments in these races that I may not have included because I may have missed some things. But I should stop rambling, and to prove my point about Jade's lack of performance in this race, let's move on to the clips.
As we move in the first funnel of the last round of round 4, we can see them all cycling, and Jade gets actually an early lead, which is depressing, followed by the unusual order. Jade somehow loses this lead and goes only down to third, with Black Hole being stuck, and later in the race, Galaxy and Jade fight it out. And this is why I say this race is often disappointed. That's one of the only comebacks that Jade ever makes, and it's not really a comeback. She thinks she's going to do it, then she doesn't. However, Black Hole and the Galaxy, the rivals that they are, keep duking it out, with Black Hole coming on top in this dispute. Jade attempts another mounted comeback. This time, she succeeds. Moving on to fight Black Hole in the next funnel. and actually going to succeed. We even see a unique spin from Black Hole here. Or sorry, Galaxy here. You see as Galaxy attempts to challenge, she actually moves into the lead. But then both of the other Marvels kind of ragtag her back. So she ends up losing. And we see Litter and we see Black Hole and Galaxy going back and forth, with Galaxy coming out on top.
Like I said, that last round wasn't as impactful and suspenseful as we would have hoped. Jade kind of collapsed in that last round, probably due to exhaustion, which isn't ideal for a Marvel to do, but it happened. And that's how Black Hole and Galaxy moved to the semifinals, which actually is where we are now. We are in the semifinals, which means we have moved on from round 4 to round 5. This means that we are now talking about Captain Penguin, the Aquateer, Princess Speedy, and Icy Blast from their two respective quarterfinal rounds, which I believe are rounds 2 and rounds 3. If I'm not mistaken. I'll put the actual prospective rounds up if I'm not correct. But I am, because I'm that guy. But this is where the skill gap goes up, which is the suspense level in a way. The suspense level goes up, because there's a lot more action, there's a lot more happening, because the skill gap is higher. These Marvels had to pass through one trial already, that being the quarterfinals, to get to the semifinals. So they obviously are going to be a lot more skilled than the other competitors. So out of our 4 rosters of competitors, who moves on here? As I've already said, of the 4 competitors, Captain Penguin, the Aquateer, Princess Speedy, and Icy Blast, it's Captain Penguin and the Aquateer. They're the ones who moved on. Probably unexpected. The Aquateer this is actually his second race. It's his first big tournament overall, which he gets 4th in. But how does he do in this race? His third. Well, how does he do in this bracket? How does every Marvel do in this bracket? Okay, we'll get there when we get there. But for this first race of the round, we eliminate Icy Blast, who I guess just ran out of steam. They had time to train, and I don't think Icy Blast took that time, unfortunately. And everyone else did. So she ended up becoming eliminated due to her not just taking the time to everyone else did just fine. I think Princess Speedy was in the lead for most of the time. And with Captain Penguin and Captain Penguin and the Aquateer just doing completely fine. Because they've always done completely fine. But other than that all said, as always with this recap, let's get into the clips that showcase what I'm talking about.
Moving into the first funnel, we can see, the traditional order. We can see that they're all cycling, with Princess Speedy going in later, making a great hit on Icy Blast. However, Icy Blast is doing exceptionally well, at least in the beginning. Beats Princess Speedy, and we can see the worst Marvels ahead and the better Marvels behind. This is arguable, and even Icy Blast, only for a moment, has the lead, because Princess Speedy wins it out of her. We can even see the Aquateer failing to strike a sufficient attack against Icy Blast, but Icy Blast is able to, at least knock Princess Speedy off her rhythm, while Captain Penguin and the Aquateer are able to brawl back and forth, and the Aquateer and Captain Penguin get in front of Icy Blast, putting her in the back. Icy Blast, at least at the beginning, doesn't give up, and is able to beat out the Aquateer, while the Aquateer tries to fight back against Icy Blast. Princess Speedy is able to dodge the Icy Blast Aquateer fight, but the Aquateer is able to hit Princess Speedy later and get into the yellow funnel right before the first split path. And Icy Blast makes a move against Captain Penguin, though, putting him in last. We can see in the later red funnel, we can see that Princess Speedy and the Aquateer are fighting, and Captain Penguin and Icy Blast are fighting. The Aquateer beats Princess Speedy, but who will win versus in Captain Penguin versus Icy Blast? The results might shock you when we see them cycling. Just kidding. Captain Penguin wins, as you probably expected. Icy Blast, though, is able to hit the Aquateer, and the Aquateer wins. The Aquateer is fighting Captain Penguin. At this point, the Icy Blast is essentially given up and doesn't mount any further attacks. But the Aquateer becomes more aggressive in the second half, something I did mention in the long talk section, fighting a lot of marbles. As we see, he's mounting a prolonged attack on Princess Speedy, continually fighting her. We can see that this, as we can see barreling down, as he actually gets closer and closer to her.
And would you look at that? We're already almost done talking about recap for the 5th round. I know, the 5th and 6th rounds are rather short because we have 4 marbles that move into the round, and with 2 marbles going on to the finals, we only really have 2 rounds that eliminate marbles, which means 2 rounds in general. But I was kind of right about my recaps for the first race of round 5. Princess Speedy hovered around 2nd to 3rd place with the Aquateer. I was right about Icy Blast. Let's get that out of the way. She was in last the whole time, but Captain Penguin, not Princess Speedy, was in first for most of the race. But that doesn't mean Princess Speedy's skill is not to be underestimated, as we can talk about for the second race of round 5, and the final race for round 5 before we move on to round 6. She doesn't give up the whole race. She loses, yes. But the big thing is she doesn't give up. She is like, I'm trying to think of like a historical comparison. Like Napoleon in the Napoleonic Wars. After being defeated by the Allies, he comes back and then gets defeated again. She repeatedly sticks it to them over and over and over and over again, just trying to avoid last place, and it sucks. And it forces, I believe, at several moments, Captain Penguin and the Aquateer form like this alliance for now, because they repeatedly team up to push her back, and she doesn't give up. And it actually, I believe, goes to a last stand for her elimination, which is one of the most epic ways I've seen a marble go down this tournament, is through a last stand. I don't know if it's in the last funnel or not, but it's somewhere towards the end where she just has like a last stand, I believe, versus, I actually don't remember who it is off the top of my head right now. The clips will show us who it was against, but that last stand was epic. She fought her hardest, she lost it, and she just, if it was the last funnel, that's where it all ended for her. But if it was somewhere up, more up, she just couldn't recover again. But don't let this die you. She was extremely tired after this tournament. We had some people talk to her, and as the commentator, I actually had some words with her. She was extremely tired after the tournament because she put her all into, especially the second race, to try to not live. She was extremely sad that she didn't move on to the finals. She was, but her performance was still extremely good. How she was repeatedly able to stick it to the other marbles and just not care, you know? She was repeatedly able to push back, even in her quarterfinal performance. She was repeatedly able, her quarterfinal performance, nobody touched her. Like, she was consistently in the front over and over and over again. And in this round, she did really good the first race. In the second race, she continually sticked it to the other marbles. It was heartwarming. But although Princess Speedy's fans are going to be disappointed that she doesn't move on to the finals, they can be proud knowing that her marble fought till the very end, which unfortunately we can't say for some marbles. Icy Blast did not do the same thing. These And as you probably noticed, even for only 2 rounds, and you'll notice here, there's a lot of clips because there's just a lot of action. But, okay, how did the Aqua Tier do? We've been talking about Icy Blast, his elimination round, but now that we've talked about the first round and we're about to go into the second, how did the other 2 marbles do? Captain Penguin did it as amazing as always. I don't want to feel like I'm overpraising him, but he did really good this whole time. Like I said, the first race, he was in front the whole time. No one could touch him. The second race, he got humbled a little bit through the efforts made by Princess Speedy, and he had to fight for his way to survive a little more this race. But he was still able, through his stalwart defending, to be able to come back and maintain and move into the finals. The Aqua Tier, though, I am very impressed with the Aqua Tier's performance, as the Aqua Tier is repeatedly able to win. Repeatedly. He's repeatedly able to just not care about the other marbles and the pressure, because he doesn't have very many fans yet. He doesn't have a lot of following yet. So he just is able to focus on the racing, and he does that extremely well. He does, again, the competition being tougher, he does stay on the 2nd to 3rd place range instead of being in 1st. But he does fight hard. He is in last, I believe, for most of the race. This race today, he is in last for most of the time. But with that being said, he is still able to put up a decent fight, especially versus Princess Speedy, which allows him to move into the finals, where I believe he ends up I think he gets last place there, but I wouldn't be mistaken. But, I mean, congratulations, the Aqua Tier. He really fights hard, and he is defeated. This is his 2nd Great Power defeat to get here. For a rookie moving, there was a lot of genuine questions whether he would do the same thing Blue Boxer did with the Grand Summer Tournament. Because if you remember, the Grand Summer Tournament was Blue Boxer's rookie tournament. And a lot of people wondered if the Aqua Tier would do the same thing. We'll talk about the finale when we get there, when we get to the finale. But the fact that he was able to raise such genuine questions is really good. I don't feel like his skill is anywhere near the skill of Blue Boxer at all. I don't think, especially not in his rookie years. He did way better in his rookie years than Aqua Tier has done here. But I think the Aqua Tier had a shot. Hold on, let me take a drink here. The Aqua Tier has defeated multiple great powers, and I just really wish him the best in all future endeavors. We're on the finale yet. Why am I saying that? But enough rambling. Let me show you Princess Peach's resilience and the Aqua Tier's rise.
There's something different that happens, and special that happens here. But I'll let you see if you can notice it, as the Aqua Tier comes right out of the gate to gun for 1st place. And as we can see, Captain Penguin and Aqua Tier look close. Princess Speedy is able to snipe it underneath all of their noses. And the Aqua Tier attacks Princess Speedy, and it seems to hold it for now, as the position that Captain Penguin seems to find himself in is last place. And the Princess Speedy attacks the Aqua Tier for vengeance and is able to hold her spot in 1st place. And then the Aqua Tier attacks Princess Speedy, and as he seems to have won, she strikes back and is able to go through the hole first. And then he attacks her again, and then here comes Captain Penguin. She's beating the both of them, but Aqua Tier is able to get through. But she beats the both of them, and they realize they have to do something. So they use their time in the black funnel on top here to strategize and work with a plan mid-race, which is something I've never seen done. The Aqua Tier enters the funnel, and Princess Speedy attacks him. Captain Penguin attacks her to avenge his ally, and this is actually something that's really special. Princess Speedy, for vengeance, attacks Captain Penguin, and is able to use him to get to 1st place again. As Princess Speedy exits, the Aqua Tier and Captain Penguin move into the funnel together to try to stage an attack on her. But like I said, she leaves before they can do anything. And then the Aqua Tier again attacks Princess Speedy again and fails. And then the Aquateer again attacks Princess Speedy again. And then they slowly cycle. You're starting to see the pattern, right? Especially towards the second half, the latter half of after the elevator, the portion after the elevator, he really starts to attack her. I don't know what Vendetta has against her. She beats him here, but he really has a vendetta against her for some reason. I don't know what she did to him. And as Princess Speedy is attempting to do its challenge, Captain Penguin's first place. The Aquateer attacks Princess Speedy, again, and is able to, I believe, hold it for a second, but she uses one of her tricks and is able to get in front of him. As Princess Speedy and Captain Penguin battle for dominance, Princess Speedy uses the Aquateer to get her advantage. And in the green funnel, as they attempt to duel for dominance once again, he comes in, and the two allies, for now, get together, and as Aquateer attacks Princess Speedy again, allowing Captain Penguin to get into first, but the Aquateer falls further behind. The two allies really need to realize that they need to do something to beat Princess Speedy as she attacks Captain Penguin. The stalwart defender is able to hold off, but this prevents the Aquateer from making an attack. As both Princess Speedy and Captain Penguin make it to the funnel, the Aquateer realizes that he really needs to do something. Princess Speedy attacks Captain Penguin, but the Aquateer and Captain Penguin team up. And as Captain Penguin starts clearing the hole, the Aquateer again attacks Princess Speedy again. And against all odds of what we've seen so far, he survives.
Round 6. So, round 6 is an interesting round. This it has marbles from, I believe, round 1 and round 4. The one we just took at, I think, for me, 20 minutes ago. Probably more like an hour ago from all the editing. But for you guys, it was only 10 minutes ago, because that's how far we talked about round 4. But how far it was doesn't really matter. Round 6 has the 4 marbles: Galaxy, Black Hole, Deep Blue, and Blue Boxer. Well, Deep Blue gets eliminated in the first race of round 6, and what happens to him is just sad. The worst fate that can happen to any marble happens to Deep Blue. He gives up. He starts off decently. He's in 3rd place. Fights several times for 2nd, but he fails. But very early on, he loses a fight to Blue Boxer. And after that, he kind of is too demoralized, and he gives up. Never making another attempt. I think only 1 or 2 attempts or more are made by him throughout the entire race, and he just gets eliminated, which is so unfortunate and just shows how the morale matters, arguably more than a racer's skill, because you could be the best marble in the world, but if you get demoralized and you get sad and I'm not saying being sad is not okay. Being sad, all emotions are okay, but you get what I'm saying, right? If you're demoralized and you don't try till the very end, you don't get the finale that Princess Speedy had back in round 5 that we just talked about, for me, a minute ago, but for you guys, it was 10 minutes ago. But again, enough about time. You don't get that same finale. You get this sucky finale, which sucks. And I know Deep Blue is kind of ashamed of himself, but the important thing is that he bounces back from this. He realizes that he can't give up despite who he's against. He cannot give up. He has to realize that. And if he can realize that and he can get his head back in the game, then he'll be just fine moving into the projects that we have coming next. Because I know a lot of you root for him here, root for him in M&H as well. So I hope he can do just fine moving forward. But this was a sad, this was not necessarily humiliating as he still made it to the semis. But stuff like that is why he's not a great power and only a major power, because he has a tendency to do things like that, which isn't great. How did the other marbles do? They did a lot better by comparison. Blue Boxer stuck generally in 3rd place, which, that's what Blue Boxer does. He's perfected that art. So I'm not really, you think, he sucks. But he made it to the finale. What works. It's what he did in the Grand Summer Tournament. It's what he does now. It's what he does in a lot of races. And for elimination style, it works. Now for point-based, it doesn't really work as much, but we haven't done a point-based style race yet. That race is coming. But it worked for him, and it's what works for him. So that's what he does, is he's perfected that style. The Aquatier, it's gotten so official, the Aquatier is even trying to mimic his style a little bit. But it's too early to say that, because the Aquatier is a rookie, so he's still trying to find his style. But I heard we got dispatched, and we got a couple of new rookies coming in. So hopefully they'll find their style, and the ranks of Blue Boxer can make an impact on them. How do the rivals Black Hole and Galaxy do? At least for this first race, because I'll talk to you guys again after the clips. But Black Hole does his strategy that he does for the entire tournament that he's done so far, like in the quarterfinals. He tries to get in the front, and he just tries to stay there. That's the strategy he does. He avoids combat. He doesn't... I think it's where his weakness is. He kind of struggles to combat, and that's why his rival is able to be a rival to him. Because Galaxy, in my opinion, is way better than combat. Actually fighting marbles, the brawl in those funnels, than Black Hole is. But Black Hole is just able to kind of... And we see that. This race and the next. That Galaxy several times is able to beat Black Hole. But Black Hole is able to just move through the funnels faster. And just get ahead of him through other means. Which, again, whatever works. This is what worked for him. It's how he won the whole thing too. Remember, Black Hole won the whole tournament, so it's how he won. Which, we gotta give props where props is due. That's how he won. So, that's how Galaxy did as well. He actually maintained a second place position. He got attacked by Blue Boxer a few times, but I think was usually able to shrug them off. Or he was able to come back later. And because he used to stay up really close with Black Hole, always giving Black Hole consistent pressure. But he rarely actually ever passed for very long. But that consistent pressure kept Black Hole on edge and didn't allow him to relax, which may have been a detriment to Galaxy, because now Black Hole is able to hit his attacks and able to counter his attacks more easily due to the fact that he was always there. It may have been easier, may have rather to pull back and maybe re-attack with a hard attack after he's given it some time. But you never know. We don't know because that's not what happened. We do know what happened. And the clips will show us exactly what happened. So let's go there.
And then as the marbles get into that very first funnel, we can see that some early attacks were made, like Blue Boxer against Black Hole. And as they all start swerving to that hole, it seems that Black Hole is able to go through first, followed by Galaxy, and then Blue Boxer. We can see as the fight begins to start with Blue Boxer and Black Hole, Galaxy swoops in and then hits Blue Boxer away. But then, again, for some reason, he hits Black Hole and is able to get through first. He's saying that no one can attack my rival like that but me. And then we can see in this fight how Galaxy is able to beat Black Hole out. And we have two fights in this race so far. One with Galaxy Black Hole and one Blue Boxer in Deep Blue. Deep Blue wins against Blue Boxer. And then Black Hole obviously beats against Galaxy. But then we have the rematch, the earlier fight I mentioned, where Blue Boxer takes the cake. We have another fight between the two rivals where Black Hole takes the cake. But between Deep Blue and Blue Boxer wins on top. At this point, it's safe to say that Deep Blue has given up. And even Blue Boxer now passes Galaxy. And then Blue Boxer gets stuck. One of the few times he gets stuck in the Great Grand Mountain Climb. However, he is able to remedy the situation and is able to beat Galaxy out. And then later in a different encounter, we see Blue Boxer make a quick move and beat Galaxy.
Those are some great clips, wouldn't you say? We saw that, kind of Deep Blues give up, the fights between all the other marbles. But I can hear you all asking, Tyler, can it get any better than that? What we've seen of the past 6 races, more than 6 races, the past 6 groups. Yes, it can, and it gets better after that, in the finale, which is after this. And you're asking, Tyler, what's on your ear? And I know you're talking about this thing. Yeah. See, mics have a little fluff, so your ear doesn't hurt. But on the for me, it's the right side. It's this side here, which would be for you guys on this side. For me, it's my left. But for you guys, I don't think I drew left. The best trick I learned for left and right is to hold the L's up. Yes, this is your left side for you. That's left for me. So yeah, this is my left, but maybe you're right because of how like the camera works. But enough of left and right. What it is just I don't want my ear to hurt while doing this recording, so I have something in there to fill before I get my mic back and fix it. Because it will be fixed before you see me looking like this again. I don't know how long it'll be though. Anyway, is round 2 the same thing as round 1? Or race 2 the same way as race 1? Actually, it's not. It's really not. Black Hole suffers more competition through the actions of Blue Boxer, because Blue Boxer seems to really kick it into gear this race, because he knows that, hey, I really gotta try here. Which I'm glad he did, because Galaxy gives him nothing but trouble with this race. Nothing. They constantly go back and forth, which most of the clips that I've gathered for you all mostly are. Mostly are Galaxy and Blue Boxer head to head. I probably have like a mini clip down here playing of just an example of what I'm showing you all. Black Hole usually gets hit, may occasionally gets hit in the clips, but he usually gets by other means, which is the strategy he uses. How well that strategy will continue to work, I don't know. The marble meta is something that I will never be able to predict, but if I had to say, I think a strategy would work quite well, especially in point-based, which we will do after this recap. I gotta get to doing that. But yeah, we have the Black Hole doing his thing of just passing people by other means. We have the fight between Blue Boxer and Galaxy. And now like I said, Blue Boxer does occasionally attack Black Hole, but he usually gets repassed again. But let's get to the clips to show you this in action. We can see in the final blue funnel before the finals, the 3 marbles are cycling all throughout, and we can see Black Hole fighting Blue Boxer, with Blue Boxer actually prevailing, and Galaxy being in last place here. But then we see the sequential fight in the yellow funnel where Black Hole takes the lead here, and Blue Boxer isn't able to do anything. But then we see Blue Boxer and Galaxy immediately before the elevator, the split path before the elevator, where Galaxy makes a hit on Blue Boxer, which seems to do well here, which does actually for Blue Boxer, and Galaxy starts struggling, which isn't good. But then we can see the Blue Boxer gets attacked by Galaxy, but he's able to fully repel the attack. But then later, immediately after the elevator, Galaxy attacks again, and is able to, and once again, Blue Boxer is successfully able to repel the attack. At this time, Blue Boxer is able to pass Galaxy in a quick move, and at the final funnel, Galaxy makes one last strife versus Blue Boxer. But like every time before we've seen in this clips, Galaxy fails and Blue Boxer successfully defends and is able to move on against the wishes of Galaxy. And Black Hole scoffs that his rival lost right before the finals. Welcome to the finale. An exciting finale to this tournament, which I am very, very happy and excited to give out to you guys. Because this video is probably about an hour. Probably is an hour or longer. Which, I know it's long for you guys, but for me, it's been about a month. This video has taken me a month to do. Or possibly and probably longer. Right? I know it's probably my fault, but man, it's been a while, and I'm so happy to finally wrap this project out and work on other things, because I have a lot of other things planned and other things that I want to do. But that's good stuff. How do the actual racers do? Well, the racers, this is a very blue round, all marbles. They don't have blue in their name, but they're all very blue. And the last round was all very blue. The only original quarterfinal bracket that doesn't have any representation here is the one that Princess, Speedy, and the Icy Blast came from. I don't know the number that is. It'll be up here. on my head. But how does it do? Who gets eliminated this time? It's unfortunate, but it's the rookie marble, the Aquateer. He unfortunately goes into 4th. There will be 3 races. We won this race, which eliminates the Aquateer. The next race eliminates Blue Boxer. The final race puts Black Hole in 1st and Captain Penguin in 2nd. So we'll focus a lot on the Aquateer performance. The Aquateer mainly fights with Blue Boxer this whole time, as Blue Boxer actually kind of struggles to keep his 3rd place spot for good. They fight a lot. And Captain Penguin mostly fights with Black Hole. Now, there are a couple times other than that where, like, Captain Penguin and Blue Boxer fight, and Black Hole and the Aquateer fight, but the Aquateer is in the back right from the very first funnel, and there's really nothing that he does to hold a 3rd place spot or higher for a larger spot for a longer time. And you will see that because the clips cut off, I think, after the split funnel, the final mini funnel, they cut off after that because there's nothing interesting for me to report to you about those clips. So, but it's unfortunate because he was doing so well, but without a certain style, he just kind of got beaten by the better competitors. It's hard to tell whether Black Hole's better than him, but or not. What now? We're in elimination. What's his rank? It's again too soon to tell, but to be safe, they've placed him at a high-ranking major power. A high-placing major power. If he continues doing well, a great power race will have to be called, because a great power race, if you don't know, is a race where you fight against a bunch of other great powers, and if you do well, then you will become a great power yourself. Because he's done absolutely well. I think that he has the aptitude to become one, but it's just been too soon to call to see if, he's a great power or not. But with that being said, the other marbles do decently well too. Now, of course, Blue Boxer kind of falls behind, but he's still able to be a competitor for 1st. But really, the only people who really competed for 1st in this race, at least, was Captain Penguin and Black Hole. They're the only really people who did, which is unfortunate because we want them to not that be true, but unfortunately that's true. Black Hole did his strat of avoiding combat, but Captain Penguin was very much able to be much more of a threat, and is able to use 1st from him and keep it for a while, several times throughout these next few races than Galaxy ever was in the 5th round. Captain Penguin was much more of a threat in the finale than Galaxy was in the semi and quarterfinals, which was a huge deal for Black Hole, and where the weakness of the strat starts to come apart when a very good competitor like Captain Penguin comes in and fights you, and you can't hold your ground, you're gonna lose, regardless of how many other times you can pass him up in other ways. Because this track doesn't honestly give a lot of other ways. Other tracks will, but this track really doesn't. So you have to be able to good combating, which favors people like Captain Penguin, but other people like Black Hole are able to surface as well. But all that being said, how does Captain Penguin do? Like I said, he does extremely well here. He's able to put a decent dent in Black Hole while keeping Blue Boxer and Aquateer behind him. He does extremely well, like he does throughout this entire tournament. We'll get to him and Black Hole's performance more when we actually get to the final race of the finale. But let's get into the clips and show you what these marbles can do.
As we can see in this blue funnel right here, the marbles are going round and round. And it's hard to tell who's in 1st place. Just kidding, it's Black Hole here. You may think it's hard to tell, but once you know Black Hole in this tournament, you know that he's secretly in the lead. You get to the funnel first. What did I tell you? Followed by Blue Boxer. Then Captain Penguin. He actually who gets pushed out of the way by Aquateer, his old ally. But then he has to fight his other old ally, Blue Boxer, like in the Grand Summer Tournament. They were allies together, which causes Captain Penguin to be in a further spot, as he has to figure out who to help. However, he decides to contemplate those things when he's in a better spot. So he defeats both the Aquateer and Blue Boxer to get into 2nd place. Actually, a splendid move by Captain Penguin, but Blue Boxer beats off the Aquateer. The Aquateer's aggression that he showed versus Princess Speedy is still here, But hold on, let's focus on the red funnel first. As Blue Boxer is attacking Captain Penguin in his stalwart defending, and with a little help of the Aquateer, is able to prevail against Blue Boxer here. The Aquateer's aggression, Captain Penguin actually is again able to use Blue Boxer to get his goals, and the Aquateer is able to beat Blue Boxer. The aggression that the Aquateer shows is still there and allows him to actually get first place. But like his fights versus Princess Speedy, they actually rarely go well for him. As we can see, there's a very intense fight here versus Blue Boxer that does go well for him. But we can see that when Black Hole attacks, he fails. And we can see that Captain Penguin is fighting Black Hole, and the Aquateer is just kind of there. And Captain Penguin's able to get through the funnel first. Well, he is just there until Blue Boxer attacks him. But it doesn't actually do much. The attack doesn't, and he still is there. But then we have Captain Penguin versus Black Hole. And again, the Aquateer is trying to show the same aggression. But unlike last time, there is no last funnel grace, and he does end up getting eliminated this time. But he does put up efforts, like this fight versus Blue Boxer. The Blue Boxer fights right back just as hard and is able to defeat him in the yellow funnel, as we can see here. And we could transition to the blue funnel, where we have Blue Boxer attacking Captain Penguin.
The second round is a exact proof of why you need to keep fighting till the very end, because you can always improve your chances if you fight till the very end. So is the last race of the finale. We'll get to the last race So after the Aquateer's elimination, you'd think Blue Boxer would be on the chopping block, but just like with the last race of the 6th round, he kind of to kick it into gear, and so you could argue that, just like the track layout, the first half and the second half of the race are actually very distinct parts. Of course, they're separated by the elevator, the rings of marbles like up. But I mean, like, more than that. There's actually something different that happens so you go first and second half of the track. Throughout the first half of the track, we have Captain Penguin, who predominantly is in the front. Now, this ends, I believe, after the white funnel before the twin after the elevator. But the second half of the track, we dominate Deep Blue. Captain Penguin falls from first to last place. And so in the first half of the track, we have Deep Blue struggling to catch up, and then we have Captain Penguin struggling to catch up in the second half. But here's the kicker. Captain Penguin doesn't, unlike Deep Blue before him in the 5th round, doesn't give up. He doesn't. He keeps going. But unlike Princess Speedy before him, he doesn't fail. He actually succeeds, beating Blue Boxer in the final moments of this tournament. The final moments of, not the tournament, but this race. The final moments in that blue funnel to push Deep Blue Boxer into 3rd place and gives him... I've been neglecting talking about Black Hole's performance, but he just does the same thing. He just tries to minimize his contact. It's Deep Blue and Captain Penguin's arcs that are more interesting in this race. As we can see, Deep Blue has to fight Captain Penguin several times, and we can see that, Captain Penguin has to fight Blue Boxer several times, and they're both just trying to stay out of last, and ultimately it's Captain Penguin that prevails. I know this talking segment's actually a lot shorter because not really much to say other than we have Captain Penguin winning in the first half, but he ends up falling to the last and then catching up, and then Blue Boxer, who you think is going to be fine, but the last final, Captain Penguin's able to usurp that fineness from him. But I will say this, though. Throughout the latter half, one of Deep Blue Boxer's biggest weaknesses is that he gets stuck a lot. That's his biggest weakness, arguably, that he gets stuck. And it doesn't happen to him. I think for the majority of this tournament, it doesn't happen to him. Or at least not in these clips, it doesn't. Which is, I think, I'm very proud of him for helping overcome a weakness. But other than that, let's go on to the clips that showcase this last stand for Penguin.
Without the aggression of the Aquatier, things get a little more stale in the very first funnel, and as you probably have guessed, Black Hole's secretly in the lead here. And he actually looks more of it this time, but Captain Penguin's able to sneak in without Black Hole actually noticing here, and kicks Blue Boxer away. This is actually the race where he loses, so a lot of people are starting to think that maybe he'll take a repeat. But unfortunately, as we can see in these first two clips, he actually really doesn't. And he's just trying to make bear hits off of Black Hole, but fails in these two regards. However, he does make a successful attack here, and is able to beat Black Hole. And Black Hole is attacking Captain Penguin here, and it does go well for Black Hole. But then Captain Penguin immediately retries in a later funnel versus Blue Boxer, and then Blue Boxer is unable to successfully defeat Captain Penguin. Just kidding, yes he does, and Captain Penguin is defeated here. But in a later funnel, we have Captain Penguin attacking Black Hole, but Blue Boxer is immediately behind. But then Blue Boxer is now able to attack Black Hole, but then is immediately attacked right after by Captain Penguin. But Black Hole is able to defeat both of them, and Captain Penguin and Blue Boxer are defeated, with Blue Boxer at the time being ahead of Captain Penguin, and is still here. Blue Boxer looks to be in the lead, which he is, and Captain Penguin, just like the Aquatier needing before him, is able to end the funnel towards the funnel last. And it's like some race miracle, he's not only able to beat out Blue Boxer, he's able to beat out Black Hole. Kind of. As Black Hole enters the funnel first, Captain Penguin immediately, almost, enters the funnel second, eliminating Blue Boxer and ending his goals of a repeat are crushed.
You'd expect that the finale of the Grand Mountain Climb would be, in essence, a lot. Because not only is this the finale of this tournament, it's the finale of this track. This track actually got taken down after the completion of this tournament. So this is the last event that this track ever participated in. It'll probably be built later on, but not forever, for a while. This track is very suspenseful at the beginning and at the end, but what happened? It's the fact that Captain Penguin was kind of winning for a lot of the tournament. He was able to beat Black Hole for a majority because the majority of race actually isn't seen because not a whole lot happens. Captain Penguin is able to front run, and Black Hole can't catch up to him until the very end of the race in that light green funnel, where he's able to actually hit Captain Penguin and get ahead. Going in the red funnel, Captain Penguin fails to connect. In that finale funnel, like Princess Sweetie before him, he goes down with a bang, fighting Black Hole to the very end, and it ends up being defeated like Princess Sweetie before him. But he shouldn't be sad. This gets him a second place performance, which is great for him. So how does Black Hole's strategy ultimately work for the finale? It didn't really, I don't think the strategy actually happening too much in the finale. It really didn't, I don't think. But Black Hole did better than all of us expected, including myself. I thought he was going to be eliminated probably, if not in the semifinals, but most likely in the semis, if he even made it to the quarterfinals. So he did it a lot better than most people were expecting. To go out and win the thing was a lot. And Captain Penguin was someone that everyone expected to get this far, but no one was sure of his place. And with the lineup, and once we finally got to the finale, people expected him to get first. Does this race knock down his great power status? Absolutely not. He's done great from day 1 to day 30, of this tournament. So, to day 7 of racing. So, or whatever day it was. But he still ends up finishing it strong. So his rank is still not impacted. He's still the arguably strongest, probably the strongest great power out there. I say arguably because there are some great powers that you could argue are better than him. Blue Boxer is one of them. Golden Viper is one of them. But most people would say that he's the best. And for Black Hole, this absolutely bumps him. He goes from a low-ranking major power to a higher-ranking major power. I think he's still under the Aquatier, though, because of how many other races that he's done poorly in that the Aquatier hasn't had. But, I mean, they've both done really well this tournament, and I hope that Black Hole's performances keep up, because I like seeing him perform. I like seeing him. I really don't have a problem with him, so I really hope that he continues performing. in the way that he has been today, and we can see him after that. We'll talk about more of that after these clips.
Things get exciting in the very first funnel as Captain Penguin and Black Hole battle it out. And you'd think Black Hole would be an out first, which he does, but Captain Penguin falls quickly in suit. Captain Penguin makes a hit onto Black Hole, and the two go back and forth. However, Captain Penguin is just better at combat than Black Hole is, and he is able to get through the funnel. An attack by Black Hole made onto Captain Penguin does fail against Black Hole, like another one I believe made here, also fails. He's making a lot of failed hits, which he does throughout most of the run. However, the end here is where things get extremely exciting, as Black Hole doesn't make a failed hit. In fact, his hit actually succeeds, and he's able to beat Captain Penguin, moving into the yellow funnel. As Captain Penguin attacks Black Hole at the last second, Black Hole's combat abilities go on one of the final tests of this tournament. And this is the one time you need them to kick in. And this is the time they kick in. And he's able to beat Captain Penguin just long enough that he's able to secure first place for himself, and it's second placed for Captain Penguin, which sucks for him.
So, Black Hole won. Yeah, I've mentioned it several times that he's won. I'm very happy that he's won. I think that he very much deserves this win. I think that he's massively improved. But we would have the time to tell whether these actually stay. Because, so here's how I'm going to wrap up this ending. I'm going to talk about like other things that I decided to get to, how I'm most likely to considering the finale, a few races, and then we'll talk about what my plans are after this comes up. So I still have to do the voiceovers for the actual clips themselves, because they're not done yet. I'm going a lot of order. I'm very happy that Black Hole's done well. I think that it's very unexpected. I think that if he continues to do well, he could become a great power very quickly because he's outperformed his rival. Is he better than his rival definitively? No. Are they still rivals? Yes. Blue Boxer, I'm very happy for. I think he's done extremely well in this tournament. Not as well as the Grand Summer Tournament because he won that. But still, I think he may have done better in some places. I'm very disappointed in both Princess Speedy and Golden Viper. They probably should have gotten higher, especially the fact that they both... Golden Viper didn't even make it to the semis, and Princess Speedy didn't make it into the finale. Both of them made grand efforts, but at the end of the day, both of them didn't make it. You probably think both of them should make it, as both of them are arguably better than Captain Penguin as the top great power in this Marvel Universe. Which is very unfortunate, and I want them to perform better. Well, that said, one final congratulations to Black Hole for winning the tournament. Final congratulations to Captain Penguin for second, Blue Boxer for third, and the rookie Aquateer for getting fourth. And congratulations to every Marvel who played, regardless of rank in this tournament. Regardless of rank where you started, rank where you ended, you mostly played well. I'm very proud of most of the Marvels who played. Okay. What's next? There's a lot coming because this video is going to be the finale of season 1 of Marvel Studios. Marvel Studio, it has no S, I don't think. If I didn't know my own channel name, that would be humiliating, but it's Marvel Studio, I'm pretty sure. But, Marvel Studio, this is the ending of season 1. The Grand Mountain Climb was the finale of season 1. It's gone a very long time, but we're going to move into season 2. Where we have 2 new competitors coming in, a whole new track built, and a building is not done yet. It will be done very soon, but there will be a couple soon. So what new projects are coming in? Well, we're going to put these new 2 Marvel, they won't be done right away. There will be, so they're not more than an hour long, but there will be built supercuts of both the Grand Summer Tournament and the Grand Mountain Climb. There will be full shortcuts of these, supercuts of them, so you all get to see them. There will be those out there. The pub won't be because it's been so long ago, something like this for the Grand Summer Tournament. I don't think that'll be there. But what about with this new tracks built? There will be, I've already hinted at it earlier, but there will be like a point-based race instead of just elimination. There will probably be some teamed racing as well. And we will find somewhere to put the new marbles in. One will be introduced right away, probably in a marble duel with another marble. And then there will be a race that features both of these new marbles that are introduced, the second one. Because I don't want to introduce them right away. I think there'll be the point-based race that introduces the second and have these marbles then. I want to try to use as many different marbles as I can, so I'm not using the same marbles over and over again. But I've tried to also be better at getting a better schedule out because I know I've been lackluster. But moving into summer with lack of school, it should be easier for me to do all these things. But with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching this video of mine. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things. Comment what your favorite moment was, whether I included it or not in this recap of the Great Mountain Climb in the comment section below. Share this video with all your friends. And above all else, hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time in Season 2.